And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Sorry for the slight delay. Somebody had to on and off a switch if I were to take inspiration from the SAP event a few weeks ago. And obviously, apologies for the slight delay as well. I know you've been patient. I know we're very excited to have this conversation. Just for those of you who have just joined us, we have here with us Mr. Sopnendu Mohanty. He is the Chief FinTech Officer of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. It's a bit of a mouthful, so from now on, I'm just going to call it MAS, as probably legend calls it, and it's most popular. So, welcome. Once again, sorry for the delay. How are we going?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. You're
Very,
great.
very good.
Very
Very
good,
good.
very good. How are we doing today?
Uh, Thanks for this little excitement, but um, it's getting better. I must say, it's getting better. The challenges are making us to do more hard work,
Yes.
and I'll say, man, it has been a month. It is a month of struggle, opportunities, a lot of empathy, but all of us will get better as we come out of this crisis.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you. So actually, on that note, right, I want to ask you the kind of like the first question to kick things off. So just before your session, our good friend Veronica from IMDA, together with Yiming from Open Notes, they did the announcement and the launch of the blockchain ecosystem map for 2020, which I also believe MAS had a part to play in it as well. So my first question is like the last year's the map was like 150 something entities, and this year it's grown to something like 230 entities right now, all in the space of 1 year. And it's, despite all the the talk by so-called observers and people in the industry where they said, oh, and beginning of the year when MAS came out with the new PSA regulations, etc., AML, KYC regulations, everybody was like, oh no, this is going to disrupt the growth of the ecosystem. But actually, it's proven them wrong. The ecosystem has grown, especially in the blockchain space, and the map shows it. What are your thoughts on this, just to kick it off?
But you actually summarized it beautifully. I think that I always believed that you have to have some anchor point to drive anything new, anything pervasive. And largely, I've been saying for last 2 to 3 weeks that when you think about innovation, there are four things to think about. There is a network effect, there's an innovation effect, there's a regulatory effect, and there is an ecosystem effect. And if you build something around this four construct, it tends to help technology to become far more pervasive. And let's take example of the blockchain as a way to explain this. If think about Project Ubin, it was generated for one very particular reason, that it will generate that necessary network effect of bringing the best talent, start a discussion, think about use cases, bring a lot of partnership, and that creates that ecosystem. You build that whole ecosystem around it.
Yes.
And then you think about that created the regulatory stance, the PSI, the Payment Service Act, which talked about provision for such tokens, right? So, and that also created that innovation effect, because a lot of innovation labs were started thinking about DLT, digital tokens, as part of that construct. In fact, you know, look at the MAS sandbox. Half of the candidates in MAS sandbox have something to do with DLT in some form.
Yes.
So, how when you bring all this four factor together, it generates that momentum, and it's reflected on the numbers which you just articulated. I must refresh my number. You have bigger number than my number.
My numbers, honestly, my numbers just came in this morning, so maybe I've miscalculated something like that.
No,
It's a huge.
I
It was a
take
huge
I,
map to come.
I take the bigger number always.
Right. So actually, you're going to jump ahead. So you spoke about Project Uvin. Its phase 5 is completed already, from what I understand. What's next for Project Uvin? Now that you've went through phase 1, phase 5, you've done all that. Great minds are all talking together. Where are we right now, and what can we anticipate from Project Uvin?
I think I spoke in your show or somewhere that I told 2020 will be the year of production.
Yes. Actually, I
Right?
think it was my show. Yes, you're right.
Yes,
We said that
yes, yeah,
2020 we will definitely roll out one project or something like that, if
yes,
I'm not wrong.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
There'll be one. and I think, and I didn't anticipate COVID-19 then, because that's not part of the
It wasn't part of the
factor
plan, right?
plan. So it happened, and I'll tell you, I was nervous. I thought all our plans and roadmap will get upset, and I think you will deal with that question somewhat down, that how COVID-19 has affected all our plans. But let me answer this question in context of Ubin Phase 5. Ubin Phase 5 report is coming very soon. It's like a couple of days, hopefully.
Did you just say a couple of days? Couple of days. So everybody, just remember, Project Ubin Phase 5, reports coming out couple of days, right?
So
maybe
yes.
Okay, carry on. Sorry.
So that report will articulate very clearly. And by the way, this is the last phase of Project Ubin. We are not going to do any more experimentation. Done with that for this particular thing, because there is always a time for experiments to become production. There's always a time, and we got to pivot. You cannot be doing experiment for 3 years and saying, I'm doing experiment, proof of concept. People get tired. The Project Ubin has set out a clear direction when and how the production will take place. There are partners in Project Ubin who are now, as we speak, working on a production grade.
So I'm gonna cut in right now and ask you, production of what?
So all I can hint, it is a part of the payment space. All I can hint, something to do with foreign exchange. All I can hint that it's something to do with settlement. So there are people, as we speak, working on releasing a production version inspired by Project Ubin Phase 5.
Interesting.
I don't want to run ahead of them. It is not fair on them, but they are coming out very much this year. And I think COVID-19 has not derailed those plans. It will be out soon. Okay. But having said that, this year you are seeing some of the MAS sandbox applicants, when they graduate, Lightstocks, for example, they're going to use DLT in production grade. They're going to use this. So it has happened either through Project Ubin or otherwise. So I'll stay corrected. I'll stay true that 2020 will be the year of production despite COVID-19. In fact, I'll argue the need for a DLT-based construct has become more important due to COVID-19, and the recovery process of any system design which is designed to recover COVID-19 from an economic point of view will need to think about a technical architecture based on DLT. No doubt in my mind. Absolutely clear.
Brings me actually to my next point. So I'm just gonna deviate a little bit, right? So you mentioned that given COVID-19, if like obviously with the DLTs and everything, progress is gonna be well and everything. Let's put ourselves in a slightly different scenario. How do you think things would have been different for the ecosystem over the last 6 months if it is all these things which you just spoke about the last 5 minutes has already been implemented? Imagine that instead of us waiting for production, production was finished. We're already done. Imagine that it was like we already pushed it out already. So do you think it will be in a better situation? Not a better situation, a more innovative situation.
I think definitely. Even if you think about it, many countries I know during COVID-19 were trying to do direct benefit transfer. They're trying to send money. State was trying to send money straight to people who got affected as soon as possible, right? Yep. Again, this is all hypothetical situation. Had we got this infrastructure in place, DLT, some form of digital currency, in some countries where the existing financial services systems are not that highly digitized, definitely it will help, because the technology allows you to directly transfer money straight to a wallet, and using some kind of technology like this, the speed at which money would have got to hands of people in need would have been far better, far in efficient way. But in Singapore case, I don't think much difference would have made it. It would have made a much difference. But what it did for Singapore, definitely it accentuated the process of getting into a construct like DLT faster. Yes, I mean, there's always a great time, but you don't match it, and you don't plan for unexpected things like COVID-19.
Yeah,
and especially to your point, just to summarize, we are going to see low touch, high tech economy. Guess what? DLT is all about low touch, high tech. You are not highly decentralized, governed in the most efficient way, low touch, and highly technical in terms of design and construct and digitization.
Actually, you brought up a very good point. I would not want to name names, but I think not just our neighboring countries and partners and everything like that, but I think during these COVID times, I think a lot of governments around the world, with good intentions, have been trying to stimulate and trying to help even the common man. But there's, you read reports in most major newspapers or in the media of challenges essentially about distributing, even if it's a couple of $100 in whatever currency it is, to the people and everything, just to help them in these very, very trying times. And a lot of them are facing challenges and everything. And yeah, I agree with you. If there was a proper DLT in place, maybe, it's not a 100% guarantee it'll be immediate, but definitely, it wouldn't be a dispute or a problem that will probably last a couple of months and everything like that. It's actually on this note as well. So we spoke about, like at the start when, before right after the technical troubles and everything, you mentioned as well that, MES, you guys have the sandbox and everything. Maybe you can share a little bit more about some of the initiatives. I know yourself, together with a couple of my friends who I hope are watching right now. We know them quite well as well. So I've come up with actually a few initiatives to help the not just the fintech ecosystem, but the blockchain ecosystem as well in MES over the last 6 months, if I'm not wrong, right?
In terms of, you mean what MES has done to support the ecosystem?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I think at the edge of the crisis, we looked at what are the three possible problems companies will face. In our mind, which I think got been kind of proven during the crisis, there will be a cash flow crisis. Companies will have cash flow crisis. There will be a customer flow crisis. If you have a product, your sales cycle will get disrupted because you can't travel, you cannot, all these things become challenging. And the third thing which is likely to happen is you'll have a capital flow crisis, which means investors who have committed money will help kind of hold back their commitment, and you'll be suddenly sitting on an uncertainty whether the money is going to come for your product development. So that's one frame. The other frame is what kind of company you are. If you're a blockchain company, are you a B2B blockchain company or are you a B2C blockchain company? If you are a B2C blockchain company, you have a very interesting problem because you are a platform, you are trying to talk to customers directly. There's a certain supply side, demand side challenges. If you're a B2B company, you have an interesting challenge. In fact, you have an opportunity here because you need to digitize the platforms which need you. So you have a great opportunity, but you are saddled by this crisis with 3 C's I just spoke. What MES did, in short, is that we created grants and incentive to support these 3 areas. We created a grant and a support scheme to get blockchain company get over the cash flow problem. How? We created a salary subsidy construct. We told if you are at home, if you want to get training, I give you $15 of salary subsidy. So we looked at different way to, and rental support. Some kind of, if you're using digital tools, you can claim those expenses. So this allows you to not only get your cash flow burden go down, also allow you to get ready as you come out of the crisis because of the digital tools you're going to use as part of your work. The second area on the customer flow is very well known. We opened up our API exchange platform to all the Singapore-based companies. Go there, talk to your client, do your proof of concept, all out there. And if you have a client who's ready to do a proof of concept or a pilot or a Singapore company who wants to work with you, we actually give a very generous grant subsidy up to $80,000 to $120,000. And that's not only getting a customer, but incentive to get more customers. And the last piece on the capital flow, we also created a scheme called AMTD Solidarity Fund. And if you're a blockchain company, come to that fund, we'll find you liquidity through a process which we do twice a month. So if you're looking to raise money, come to the platform in API Exchange. We'll find you investors who are willing to look at your portfolio.
You're saying MES is actually going to play a part of not just being a bridge, but also connecting you potentially to investors.
Yes. Yes, so that's you come to the MTD Solidarity Fund in the API exchange, you can apply. So what I'm and there's a recently ESG has announced their own fund support. Again, to summarize, the three C's is what we did, and just to close this discussion, the two things we wanted to avoid during crisis, because you don't want during crisis create a lot of zombie companies and value depleting companies.
Yes.
You want to ensure the money goes to people who are creating value. You want to ensure the money goes to create people not to go into coma, so that they get upskilled and they do work out of the home. They find client through API Exchange platform, and they're still active when they come out of crisis. So hopefully this will work, and this is working. I'm getting feedback. We can do more. People like you have to give us feedback. What can we do more? I'm waiting for more feedback, and we can react to that.
Of course, we will. We have a direct line now to each other, so definitely we'll be very happy to share the feedback. Actually, on this note, if we're talking about feedback, we actually think that the world's going through a very interesting phase, and I want to pick your mind a little bit on this. And I think I'm definitely going to ask you this question, and it's a digital currency question, right?
Yes.
The US is doing something. China obviously has done something. And to be fair, China's some of those people, especially not in the blockchain space, when you hear about the digital currency in China and everything like that, people actually don't realize it's actually centralized. It's not decentralized. It does take pickings and inspirations and certain factors from blockchain technology, but essentially it is centralized. And it's actually on that note, I look at Temasik's involvement in Libra, or nowadays they call themselves Novi. I mentioned about that. Then the other factor as well is I see two of the biggest exchanges and entities in the US, Gemini, Coinbase. They actually got bank accounts. They actually can bank properly in the US and everything. So there's this maybe opening up. Because the framework is there, there's this opening up, there's this, there's growing acceptance of what the industry does and everything as well. So it's kind of like, it's Singapore going to be taking, or has Singapore already taken similar steps in this direction with regards to digitization?
Well, if you think about digital currency, people can interpret in many different ways.
Exactly.
So I think your question is around the central bank coming and talking about a central bank issued digital currency.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. If you look 2 years back, if you pull out and Google any press from any central bank, there is a certain tone to the narrative. Now you do the same institution, you pull out the current narrative, it has definitely changed. It has become far more positive.
Yes.
Far more, I'll say, there's an intent to collaborate and look at it. Yes, there is an opportunity to do something different here.
I would say there's an intent to at least give it a fair chance at exploring.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are central banks like we spoke, like Cambodia,
yes,
who have started putting it into production. China is talking a lot about it, and I'm hoping something we'll see this year. Hopefully something comes out there. From a Singapore perspective, again, when you talk about a retail digital currency, it has to be thought through the context of the country. What problem it's trying to solve for. Singapore still doesn't have any dire need or a need to have a retail digital currency, but we are quite strong in our support for a wholesale central bank issued digital currency, because that has got efficiency, productivity, and other advantage. So we are behind that big time. There are some work going on to see that happening sooner if possible. And Project Ubin is all towards that direction. On the retail side, you will see this year, I don't want to jump ahead of myself, something coming up on work now for your audience. You will see some experiments where we'll participate with certain countries in the space, but on what form and what structure and what construct is still under discussion. But again, this is a small step forward to an interesting discussion. and we'll leave something for we to discuss next time when we see
Are
each
you
other.
are you are you so are you saving this? Are you saving this announcement for your own event, Singapore FinTech Festival? I love it. You sound like you are saving this for yourself.
Maybe that's one way to speculate, but there are certain directional move. Uh, you can connect your dots by doing some desktop research on the internet. So there are something evolving that space. To summarize, wholesale currency, big thumbs up, going behind strongly. Retail currency, we don't have a use case in Singapore, but we are willing to see where we can explore some experiments, and that would be an interesting signaling where we want to go.
Interesting. I think instead of Googling, I'll probably have a chat with a couple of our friends. I would say it's probably better than Googling, get a more direct answer and probably more productive as well. So,
Yep.
we've got a few minutes left. We're gonna end it off with two questions. I think first question definitely is that again, I'm just going back to at the start of the conversation where we talked about a little bit about SFF, better known to everybody as the Singapore FinTech Festival. Are we, where is it right now? Are we going to see it happen? Are we not going to see it happen? We don't know. Or is it an open-ended answer?
This year going to be bigger and better, but
Bigger
not,
and better.
not in the, and better, but not in the construct we say. I don't say that bigger means more digital only. No, we are looking at a construct where there's a physical and digital mix towards end of the year. But I can tell you, it'll be bigger and better, and maybe that's a new benchmark for how we should think about conferences. So we have not closed. We are not going to stop it. We are going to come with a huge plan. My colleagues Pat Patel, Rebecca, Jael, Iris are all working day and night to announce something very soon again. Hopefully this month we get it out. But to all your crowd, and we're going to work with you, hopefully, to come and join us in some form and help us to make it bigger. But watch out, it will be much bigger, much fun, more countries participating, very different construct. It will set a new benchmark.
Interesting. We'll definitely have that conversation offline. We'll definitely have.
But I'm impressed by your digital outlay. It's beautifully done. What
Thank you
have
very
just put
much.
together.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Despite the slight hiccup, I do
No,
appreciate.
but that gives me an idea how to do more better now.
I think so. It's a good experiment. We can share more thoughts definitely with Rebecca and Pat as well. Okay, last question, just as a little bit of a bonus question, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit tough for you to answer it with your MAS hat on. So we're going to take it off. I think the biggest speculative news over the last couple of weeks, it's PayPal. Right? There's been this rumor going around, right? Which some people say reliable, some people say it's not reliable. But I just wanted to get your thoughts. So the rumor for everybody's context, and so obviously for your context as well, is that there are plans to enter the buying and selling of digital assets or cryptocurrencies, essentially, via PayPal as a platform. What are your thoughts about such an announcement? When you see a player like PayPal, pushing out this rumor, it could be a leak. And if you ask me, if you're inspired very much by Apple, it's all, I call them leaks on purpose about this kind of information. What essentially are your thoughts as a person in the fintech space when you hear such an announcement? And then, obviously, as a part two to that question is that what does it mean for players in this part of the world? And by that, I mean your kind of like your Grab Pays, etc., in this part of the world.
Well, first thing, I'm not supposed to speculate on rumors. So let me say, hypothetically speaking.
Yes, of course.
If such thing is really true, and a player like PayPal, we deeply respect of their innovation, the way they think things. If they're doing something, I think it's definitely what we got to watch out why they're doing it. Again, from a Singapore context, we have set all the necessary regulatory framework for anybody to operate. We have a PSA Act, which talks clearly about tokens. We have our Securities Act, which talks about if you're a security, construct what you should do. We have a consumer protection, which has got everything laid out. So anybody who wants to play in the space and in Singapore has to work within the framework of regulation we have in Singapore. So from a regulation perspective, I'm quite happy that our regulatory framework is adequate enough for anybody to do in this space what they want to do. But from an innovation standpoint, not from a regulation standpoint, a company like PayPal, if they start thinking about in the space, it definitely sets a huge momentum out there because it has got a huge signaling power because of the sheer size and the shape and the history of PayPal as a company.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. I think in conclusion, both of us would definitely agree. I think we don't even need to talk about the next 3 years or anything. I think just even in July, even next 6 months, all the way to December, I think 2020, pandemic or not, is going to be very, very, very interesting for everyone.
Absolutely sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely sure.
I remember,
I think
I remember that smile. Whenever you give that smile, you've got something to say over the next 6 months. I know. I'm going to be
so.
watching.
All I want you to do that if this all happens, please do quote. We talked about 2020 is the year of production for DLTs. You must see that happening. All of us who believe in this technology must see it happening. We've got to find a safe and secure way to build this technology. No speculation, no bad stuff, but good stuff. It will make it work.
Interesting. That's a very good ending statement. And with that, I think just nice. We've hit our
Yes.
30-minute mark. So thank you very much for joining me. Everybody, once again, this is Mr. Sumendo Mohanty. He's the Chief FinTech Officer of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, aka MAS. So once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, right? We'll see you back very shortly.